I worked overnights at an isolated gas station the summer after I graduated high school, way back in the late 1980s. This gas station had hot pizza in a clear case, and this case opened from the back. You'd open the case, pull out a slice, put it on a plate, and hand it to the customer. One day, when I came in at 11 p.m., there were 3 slices left in the case, which was 3 or 4 feet down the counter from the register. I had 1 piece for dinner, then went about working my shift, which consisted of standing at the register, waiting for people to wander in. It was a slow shift, only had 4 or 5 customers in a couple of hours. Not a busy shift by any means, and most people just wanted lottery tickets or to pay for gas or grab a pop. But by 1 a.m., there was no one in the store or at the pumps, so I got started neating the store, always in eyesight of the front counter, the register, the lotto machine, and the pizza case. And no one came in for the hour I was sweeping around, trying to make it look like I was working. Figuring the pizza was pretty well dried out by then, I went to throw it out. I opened the case, and there was an empty tray. Somehow, 2 slices of probably 5 hours of old pizza disappeared. Now, the only way to get into the pizza case was to go behind the counter, and to do that, you had to punch in a code, and then the door would buzz really loud and unlock. In other words, you couldn't just reach around the counter and get to the pizza. I scratched my head, spent the rest of my shift nervously worrying that there was some rando pizza-eating killer hiding in the store. And when a sheriff's deputy came in around 4 a.m., I asked him to check the building for any intruders. He didn't find anyone. Before leaving at the end of my shift, I wrote a note to my boss detailing what happened. Then I went home. When I came in for my next shift, he was there waiting and told me he reviewed the video. There were cameras aimed at the front counter, the door, and over the store, and he played it back for me. It showed me ringing out a customer, then going and cleaning out the shelves. Meanwhile, on the front counter camera, a couple of minutes after I left the counter area, the camera got shaky and went to static for 30 seconds or so. When it came back on, the pizza was no longer in the case. Never happened again while I worked there, which was for another 6 months or so. And we never did figure out what happened that night. At about 3 a.m. one night, I had a woman come in, insanely skinny, blonde, thinning hair, and wearing what looked like pajamas. Nothing really out of the ordinary about her, so I only really glanced up as I buzzed her in. I called out a quick greeting and went back to cleaning. After about 2 or 3 minutes though, I look up. She's just standing about 4 feet from the counter, just staring at me. A completely blank, unwavering kind of stare. She eventually began looking around the store, but she didn't take her eyes off of me the entire time, even walking backwards at some points so she wouldn't break eye contact. After she grabs some things, she comes back to the counter, still staring, but also muttering something under her breath. It was really hard to hear what she was saying, but I managed to make out a brand of smokes she wanted after getting her to repeat it several times. I get them for her, scan all her things, and she pays. Eyes still locked on me and showing no emotion at all. It was getting pretty unnerving at this point, and I was looking forward to getting her out of the door. As I'm handing over her change though, she suddenly smiles. which would ease the tension if she didn't also start to laugh. It was a really raspy laugh, kind of a cross between that croaky noise the grudge makes and a typical witch's laugh. Kind of a cackle, I guess. I tried not to react too much and told her to have a good night and took a few steps back from the counter. We were both kind of frozen, her laughing and me having no idea what to do. She continued her cackling and staring for a few minutes and then left, walking backwards again so she could keep looking at me. I felt really freaked out at that point, but figured she was probably just drunk or high, just had some stuff going on. She was outside now and had wandered off, so I went back to cleaning and tried to shake the whole moment off. I was out in the store mopping about an hour later when I heard a thud against the window. The whole front of our store is just glass panels, and the noise came from right beside me. I look up, and this damn woman is back. Her hand is pushed up against the window, and she's laughing again. I could just hear it, as I was so close to the door. I must have really jumped at the sight of her, because she seemed to get a kick out of it, laughing even more, and smacking her hand on the window repeatedly. I thought bugger the mopping, and went back behind the counter. I ended up staying in the back room, where all of our security screens are, and waiting for her to leave. It took around 45 minutes for her to clear off. The whole time, just banging on the window, and I assume still laughing. I'm really glad our doors are locked overnight, because I wouldn't have liked to have been on the same side of the counter as her. I'm not sure what her deal was. I doubt she posed any real threat, but dang, it really freaked me out. I've seen her a few times since then, just wandering past on the footpath outside, but she has never come in or hung around again. I grew up in a smaller town, around 6,000 people, and my family frequently went out at night to go on walks and such. We'd never see people out, and always felt safe, so it was never a thought in my mind that something bad would happen. My parents always lectured us about not talking to strangers and being safe at night, especially since I'm a rather short girl, also around 16 to 17 years old when this happened. We moved to a nearby town that's much larger a couple years ago, which has a bad reputation. One night, my mom's boyfriend had a bad stomach ache, and my mom's car wasn't working. So she asked me if I can go and get some Tums from the nearby gas station, which wasn't even 5 minutes away. I said yeah, 'cause I didn't mind, and I knew he wasn't feeling great at all. It was around 10:30 p.m. and super dark out. I pull into the gas station and go to park at the entrance when I see a guy in a hoodie standing by the front doors, shielding his eyes from my car lights. The thing is, my headlights aren't bright at all, even when my brights are on. So I knew something was up right away. I got out, made sure I locked my door, and hurried in. They didn't have any Tums or anything related to them, so I quickly left, hurrying back to my truck. I noticed that the guy was gone, and there was now a car parked next to mine, even though no one had come inside. I quickly get in and shut the door, and something in me told me to lock my door. I have manual locks, plus I sit far forward, so they're behind me, so I never had the thought to lock them. Not even a second later, the guy comes out from behind the other car and is trying to open my door, banging on my window and screaming at me to open the door and let him in. I turned my truck on and sped the heck out of there, shaking like a leaf. I ended up getting the Tums at another gas station, but will not go to gas stations or anywhere really, alone and at night. Scary to think what could have happened, if I hadn't had the feeling to lock my door.